banks in limbo. Home prices rise 2.4 times faster. We'll get to the rest of that. 56% of America in an emergency. Just, it's an emergency. It's happening right now. This is Current Events, March 19th, 2024. I am Sot L, seeker of truth L, speaker of truth L. I know I missed you too. But I'm back, and this is ever so luxurious. Let's do our dance, of course. We have welcome to thefoundation.com. Make sure you sign up for the email list. It's a luxurious dance you will be a part of. Right down here in the little box down here, enter your email, hit the button, and then it's going to say you need to confirm. You don't need to confirm. That's not true. Also, we got the private portal going on. Email me if you would like your special private invite. You can't just sign up. Trustee training. The most affordable trustee training around right now. If there's more affordable, more comprehensive training, please email me so I can beat it. But I don't think it exists. Link in the description of this video. How to start a business, $99. Extensive information, step by step. Start your business. Everything you need to know. Link in the description. Finally, it's been a while, y'all, right? The Foundation magazine. It's doing its dance. We have Cybersecurity Volume 3 is out. It's out right now. We're already working on the next issue. Some luxurious dances. We appreciate your support. Let's jump into these current events, because I had to find this. This is actually the India Times, the Economic Times. You can't find this really, domestic, but this needs to be spoken upon. Russian President Vladimir Putin warned the West yesterday that a direct conflict between Russia and NATO would mean the planet was one step away from World War III. He said hardly anyone wanted such a scenario. You could check this out if you would like. This is where I found it. Let's move forward, though. Doing a dance. Tighter control and high-tech push. Key takeaways from China's biggest annual political event. What are we talking about here? Listen. China grapples with the struggling economy and an intensifying tech war. Y'all see this? Tech war with the United States. I want to say CNN just blatantly admitted currency wars. Then you have cyber wars, tech wars. This is modern warfare. You move into proxy wars, which is where we are right now. That stage. Then it goes beyond that. I just wanted to notate, they admitted that we're in a tech war with China. Moving forward, emergency Fed bank effort lending is going to end. As eyes turn to the discount window, this is the emergency Fed fund lending I'll just read it. A Federal Reserve facility launched in haste a year ago amid the heavy stress triggered by Silicon Valley Bank's collapse. Closes for new business yesterday. It was over. Matter of fact, it was last week. I'm going to just be honest. It was last week. It was on the 11th. Amid evidence, it helped turn the tide of the trouble that risked derailing the economy and upending the central bank's efforts to lower inflation. A year after the bank term funding program was unveiled on a Sunday afternoon, deposits have stabilized. Bank loan books overall are growing. No bank of meaningful size has failed in 10 months. And the Fed was not forced to change its monetary policy footing. So, they're calling this a win. Say no meaningful size bank has failed in the past 10 months. I guess you could stick up on any point you want to. My personal thing is, this is not a good dance. It's not a good dance. Oh, what? CNBC, banks are in limbo without a crucial lifeline. Here's where cracks may appear. They're talking about that, what we just talked about. The forces that consumed 3 regional lenders in March 2023 have left hundreds of smaller banks wounded as merger activity, a key potential lifeline, has slowed to a trickle. As the memory of last year's regional banking crisis begins to fade, it's easy to believe the industry is in the clear, but the high interest rates that caused the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and its peers in 2023 are still at play. What? I thought the Fed said it was good. After hiking rates 11 times through July. The Federal Reserve has yet to start cutting its benchmark, and it won't. Not coming anytime soon, y'all. Ain't no cuts coming anytime soon. No cuts. As a result, hundreds of billions of dollars of unrealized losses on low-interest bonds and loans remain buried on banks' balance sheets. That, combined with potential losses on commercial real estate, leaves swaths of the industry vulnerable. Of about 4,000 U.S. banks analyzed by consulting firm Claros Group, 282 institutions have both high levels of commercial real estate exposure and large unrealized losses from the rate surge, a potentially toxic combo that may force these lenders to raise fresh capital or engage in mergers. Man, more than 280 U.S. banks have nearly 900 billion total assets at risk of needing capital because of high levels of commercial real estate and losses tied to interest rates. The study, based on regulatory filings known as call reports, screamed for two factors. Banks where commercial real estate loans made up over 300% of capital, and firms where unrealized losses on bonds and loans pushed capital levels below 4%. Claros declined to name the institutions in its analysis out of fear of inciting deposit runs. But there is only one company with more than 100 billion in assets found in the analysis, and given the factors of the study, it's not hard to determine. New York Community Bank, the real estate lender that avoided a disaster earlier this month with 1.1 billion capital injection from private equity investors led by ex-Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. That's crazy. Most of the banks deemed to be potentially challenged are community lenders with less than $10 billion in assets. Just 16 companies are in the next size bracket that includes regional banks between $10 billion and $100 billion in assets, though they collectively hold more assets than 265 community banks combined. Behind the scenes, regulators have been prodding banks with confidential orders to improve capital levels, and staffing. This is according to Claros, co-founder Brian Graham. Quote, if there were just 10 banks that were in trouble, they would have all been taken down and dealt with. When you've got hundreds of banks facing these challenges, the regulators have to walk a bit of a tightrope, end quote. This is what Graham said. So what he's saying is, if there was 10 banks in trouble, the regulators would just take them down. They would make them sell out, absorb them, whatever. Pull their charters, whatever. But because there's so many banks in trouble, they have to do this in a certain manner. We're going to keep an eye on that. Oh, Bank of Japan just made a historic rate pivot. Here's what can happen next. Japan's central bank today finally ended its experiment with negative rates, an unconventional easing tool which were aimed at reflating the world's fourth largest economy. The Bank of Japan's decision came just days after Rengo, Japan's largest federation of trade unions, said ongoing shunto wage negotiations between Japan Incorporated and unionized employees have so far yielded a provisional weighted average of 3.7% spike in base pay. This was even more robust than last year's gains, which were the steepest in 3 decades. BOJ Governor Kazuo Ueda had repeatedly said that these talks would be key to sustainable price increases that would inform any decision to hike rates for the first time in 17 years. BOJ policymakers expect higher salaries to lead to a virtuous spiral, with domestic demand fueling inflation. Prior to Tuesday, the BOJ had barely budged from its ultra-loose monetary policy posture despite, quote, core inflation, end quote, which excludes food and energy prices exceeding its 2% target for more than a year, as policymakers viewed that price increases were largely imported from overseas. So look, I feel like they're wrapping this up with, this pay, this unionized worker employees win, that they're going to get 3.7% spike in pay. And they're saying that this is going to cause inflation. You're going to have more money. These people making more money, they're going to go buy more things. And, it's going to raise prices of things because it's going to lower the supply of certain things and so on and so forth. I just want to say, why now, out of the last 17 years, would they change their banking policy? It's something to pay attention to. Inflation frustration may prompt Fed to dial back rate cut outlook. What does that mean? U.S. central bankers are not expected to cut borrowing costs this week, but their economic projections may be a wild card, potentially signaling fewer interest rate cuts and a later start to the policy easing than they previously had estimated. Keeping interest rates at the current high levels for a longer period of time could have big implications for American households and businesses, especially in a presidential election year when the state of the economy is already a central talking point for President Joe Biden and his Republican challenger, Donald Trump. Market bets still point to Federal Reserve's June 11th and 12th meeting as the most likely start for reductions to the central bank's policy rate, which has been in the 5.25% to 5.5% range since last July. But with inflation still running well above the Fed's 2% target and coming in stronger than expected in the first 2 months of this year, traders are pricing in a 40% chance that the first rate cut only happens at the July 30th and 31st meeting. Bets in financial markets also point to the end of the 2025 policy rate in the 3.75 to 4% interest range, a quarter percentage point lower than the Fed policymakers forecast in December. Look, and if you got the market thinking that the Feds are going to do something and the Fed doesn't do anything, just please believe the market doesn't like that. And when the market doesn't like things, it goes lower. It goes lower. All I'm trying to say is they're not going to reduce this interest rate anytime soon. Moving forward, U.S. single-family housing starts permits near 2-year highs. Hey, man, this is good. This is good news, right? U.S. single-family home building rebounded sharply in February, hitting the highest level in nearly 2 years, boosted by mild temperatures and a persistent shortage of previously owned houses on the market. Despite the hurdle created for many first-time home buyers by higher mortgage rates, builders are cutting prices and offering other incentives to increase sales. They are also reducing the size of the homes being built to manage higher material costs. There it is. Shrinkflation in your homes. The report from the Commerce Department on Tuesday also showed permits for the future construction of single-family housing units rose to more than 1.5-year high last month, with mortgage rates gradually trending lower on expectations the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates. Wow, I just backwards that. By June, home building could contribute to economic growth this year. We'll see. It sounds good because, there's a horrendous shortage in single family homes. But let's move up. Home prices rose 2.4 times faster than inflation since 1960s. Study finds since the 1960s, man, we're talking about 60 years. Is that 60 years ago? That's 60 years ago. That's 60 years ago, while inflation is 10 times higher now than 60 years ago. Home prices are 24 times more expensive. If home prices increased at the same rate as inflation since 1963, the median price of a typical house in the U.S. would be $177,511, according to a new research by Clever, a real estate data company. In reality, the cost of a typical house in the United States is closer to $500,000. The median price for a home in the U.S. is $412,700. $412,778. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read ahead. According to a new Redfin data, quote, today it's harder for adults to buy homes than it was for their parents' generation, end quote. This is Matt Brannon, a data writer at Clever and the author of the report. While mortgage rates have contributed to high costs, supply and demand have also affected the price growth of homes in the U.S., Brannon said, quote, when demand for other consumer products comes up, or when it increases, it's usually not too hard for people to scale up supply, whereas houses take months to build at a time, end quote. The average time to complete a new built single-family home is about 9.6 months, according to a 2022 survey of construction conducted by the U.S. Census Bureau. Zoning restrictions along with prohibitive land costs can also make it hard to even secure the opportunity to build a new home. Man, well, if home prices are increasing 2.4 times faster than inflation, that makes sense that you would be building new homes. 56% of Americans can't afford a $1,000 emergency expense. That's all bad. We are living in a paycheck to paycheck nation. A majority of Americans say they can't afford a $1,000 emergency expense. This is a recent report from Bankrate. Only 44% of Americans surveyed said they could use their savings to pay for an unexpected expense instead of opting to put it on a credit card or borrow cash from family or friends. Quote, the reality is that we are unfortunately, essentially, living in a paycheck-to-paycheck nation. End quote. This is Bankrate senior economic analyst Mark Hamrick, who went on to say, quote, we're a consumer-based society where people are implored on a constant basis to spend their money, and the messaging is not nearly as strong with respect to saving your money, end quote. Unexpected economic events that occurred in quick succession over the past 5 years, from the fallout of the panorama to high inflation, have shocked the personal finances of many Americans, says Hamrick. Quote, it's quite remarkable in the current environment that even with low unemployment and a job market that has been both robust and resilient in recent years, we still have this remarkably low percentage of Americans who can pay this emergency expense, end quote. No matter how much you have saved up, economic conditions make now an ideal time to focus on building up your emergency savings, Henrik says. Well, that's cool. If you have money, things are all bad. Speaking of all bad, Chicagoans vote on real estate tax hike to fight homelessness. Chicagoans will vote today. They already did. I bet you it passed. Primary election on whether they increased the tax rate on real estate transfers worth over $1 million. And look, I just want to caution, excuse me, I hit the mic. I just want to caution against increasing taxes on the rich, because when you have inflation and, you know, the prices of goods and services are increasing over time, I feel like eventually everybody's going to be millionaires. But what will that mean? You should check out Zimbabwe and what happened with their currency. But the ballot measure would lower property transfer taxes for the vast majority of Chicago residents to $3 for every $500 of a transfer price under $1 million, down from the current flat rate of $3.75. But it would create new brackets at the highest priced end of the city's property market, including many office buildings filling the Chicago skyline with a tax rate of $10 for every $500 of the transfer price between $1 million and $1.5 million and $15 beyond that. Proponents of the Bring Chicago Home measure in the city council, led by Democrats, estimate that the changes would bring in an additional $100 million each year, which would be earmarked for services to address homelessness. The new tax structure would bring Chicago into line with San Francisco, Philadelphia, and other major U.S. cities, according to Carlos Ramirez Rose, the alderman who represents Chicago's 35th Ward. Quote, this is not a big scary change. A lot of the fear-mongering and misinformation have been coming from some of the richest entities in the world, end quote. About 93% of all home purchases in Chicago are under $1 million and would see a lower tax bill. And that's cool. For now. You know, we have these, you know, how much the average home is almost $500,000 right now. You understand where I'm going with this, right? We saw the articles. NASDAQ dips as chip makers slide. S&P 500 treads water with Fed in focus. All I want to focus on is the NASDAQ dips. Just because of chip makers, man. That's one sector. One sector. The tech-laden NASDAQ dipped on Tuesday with chip stocks falling to more than 2-week lows, while the benchmark S&P 500 was subdued as focus turned to the Federal Reserve's policy meeting. Investor darling NVIDIA fell 1.5% after the company unveiled the Blackwell B200, an AI chip it says is up to 30 times faster than its previous chip. Some investors suggested the news was priced into the high-flying stock. NVIDIA, which has cornered 80% of the AI chip market, is expected to provide more details on pricing at its presentation later. Fellow chip makers Advanced Micro Devices, Marvell Technology, and Intel shed between 2.3% and 6.1%, while the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index dipped 2.1% to its lowest since February 29th. Quote, it is profit-taking from NVIDIA conference, where wherever NVIDIA goes, these chips are going, end quote. This is Dennis Dick, a trader at Triple D Trading. Man's name is Dennis Dick, and he's, oh my God. Let's move forward. Unilever, to spin off ice cream business, cut 7,500 jobs. Y'all thought you were going to get through the current events with no layoffs? I'm sorry. Unilever said today it would spin off its ice cream unit, home to popular brands such as Magnum and Ben & Jerry's, and it will cut 7,500 jobs in a new cost savings program. Investors cheered the plan, sending shares in Unilever, one of the world's biggest consumer goods companies, up nearly 6%. At one point, the spinoff will begin immediately and is expected to complete by the end of 2025. London-listed Unilever said the ice cream business is, quote, in the process of moving to a separate head office in Amsterdam, end quote. But CEO Hein Schumacher said on a call with journalists that he was, quote, open to options, end quote, regarding where it could list. 7,500 jobs. That's all I heard. That's all I heard. I have a new one though. I mean, listen, this is because I heard this is live, y'all. Chase Bank locks customers out. This could be a fluke. This could be a live. Oh, banks are closing customers' accounts. Ooh, what? Banks are closing customer accounts with little explanation. Increasing. I'm gonna show y'all live how I do this. Because they try to lock me out and they want all the info. And I just, I don't like to give them the info. So we're gonna find this in a friendly. Oh, here we go. MSN. We know that's friendly. Did you hear about this? I just, it's interesting. Banks are locking out their customers. Just pay attention, y'all. Your savings should not be in currency. You hear me? You should never save in currency. You have the Federal Reserve that pushes for at least 2% inflation on the currency. That means every 5 years, your dollars lose 10% of the value, the purchasing power. Currency is for bills and cash flow, moving. Savings is never for currency. Never for currency. This stuff is going to be all bad. It's going to be all bad. I appreciate y'all checking out current events. Please check out welcometothefoundation.com. Sign up for the email list. We have Trustee training. We have how to start a business. We have the Foundation magazine. It's a luxurious dance we're doing over here. I apologize for being gone so long. I'm fine. Nothing happened to me. I had to do a dance. But I'm back. Here we are. Tomorrow we got the show. It's going to be a luxurious show. I appreciate y'all checking out the current events. Y'all enjoy yourself. Take care of yourself. Make sure you say 10 things that you are thankful for before you go to sleep tonight and every night, because it is extremely important. And I will catch y'all tomorrow. My name is Sot L, Seeker of Truth L, Speaker of Truth L. I'll catch you tomorrow. Peace.